Welcome to Loom Knit Lab. Today we're going to loom knit a headband. Our pattern comes from Tiffany Matthews. The original pattern is for needles. With Tiffany's permission, I have converted it to loom knitting. Things that you will need to create this headband. You will need one rail of your all-in-one knitting loom, and you will want to start your pattern in the center peg of that knitting loom. You will also need your knitting tool, a crochet hook to cast on, a stitch marker to help you along, about 100 yards of worsted weight yarn. I am using Knit Big Swish, and you will also need a button to close your headband at the back. Let's get started. To begin, let's start with a slip knot. Place this slip knot on your knitting loom. This slip knot will become your first stitch. I am going to cast on 9 stitches. For this cast on, I'm just simply going to use the chain cast on, also known as the knitted cast on. That's 1. Two, 4, 6, 8. One more. It's 9. Perfect. Now I am going to set the stitches by simply knitting one row. So I'm going to take the yarn to the front of the pegs. And you can either do the knit stitch or the flat stitch, whichever one you prefer. I am going to demonstrate with the flat stitch. Simply lifting the stitches over. My foundation row is right there, and I am ready to begin my pattern. The instructions say to do a knit 1, purl 1 to the end. So here we go. We're gonna knit 1, purl the next one, knit, purl, continue to the end of the row, row 2 is the same. We're gonna knit 1, then purl. You are basically creating a ribbon, single ribbon of knit 1, purl 1. Rows 1 through 4 are the same, so please go ahead and do the same on row 3 and row 4. I have just completed row 4 and I am ready for row 5. This is where we're going to create the first increase with the knit through the front and back loop. And for this, I am going to place a small stitch marker on my 5th peg, which is the center peg of these 9 stitches. So let's go to the 5th peg. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, we're so lucky. Was there one right in the middle where the little hole was? So go ahead and place that stitch marker there. That will tell us that that's where we're gonna create the increase. So let's continue. We're gonna continue with the ribbon pattern that is already on the knitting loom, and then when we reach this peg, that's where we're going to create the extra stitch. So let's start. Row 5 says to knit 1, and as I knit it, I am going to move it out to the side to create the empty peg that I need for that extra stitch I'm going to be creating. The next one is a purl 1. I purl it, and as I purl it, I'm gonna move it over. Next one is a knit 1. So I knit it, I'm gonna move it over. Next one is a purl 1. I'm gonna purl and move it over. Now here I have reached the peg where I'm going to create the extra stitch by doing the knit front and through the back. So first I'm going to take my working yarn behind the empty peg in front of the center peg where I need my increase. I am going to knit that stitch. I'm going to move this loop over to the empty peg. However, I am not taking the loop off the center peg. I am going to create another stitch using that loop. For this, I am going to E-wrap the peg in a counterclockwise direction. So simply E-wrap it. Once you E-wrap it, lift the bottom loop up and off the peg. And right there we have created our knit through the front and back loop. And now we're ready to continue with the stitch pattern on the next peg, which is a purl 1. And then a knit 1, purl 1, and then a knit 1. Perfect. Right here we have completed row number 5. For row number 6, we are going to do a knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1. Now right here where we increased, we have 2 knit stitches together, and that is okay. I know it's gonna be interrupting that ribbon. However, that's what we are going to create on the following row. We're gonna create our extra stitch right in between those 2 stitches. So knit, and then we continue our ribbon pattern. This is a purl, knit, then we have a purl, go on the peg, there we go, and then a knit. Right here you have completed row number 6. For row 7, we are going to create an increase again, this time between the peg with the stitch marker and the peg right before it. So let's start. It's a knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1. Now over here is where we're going to create our extra stitch, but before I do that, I am going to move these stitches out to create the empty peg. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You could have moved these as you were knitting them, but I completely forgot, so I just did it just now. Now we are going to make the make one back. You're simply going to reach for the ladder that comes from one stitch to the other. So over here I'm reaching for that ladder. There we go. Just need to grab it, the whole thing. Once you have it, you are going to simply twist it and place that loop on the empty peg. Make one through the back is basically the instructions indicate to purl this stitch once you pick it up. So we're gonna purl it, and then we're gonna knit one. Again, continuing that ribbon stitch. Purl one, the one, purl one, and ending again with the knit stitch. Perfect. You can take off that stitch marker if you want. I like to keep it there just so that I know where I was before. Row 8, you continue in the ribbon pattern. So basically you knit the knit stitches, you purl the purl stitches. We know that we finish on a knit stitch, so we're gonna, on the next row is a knit stitch, then purl, and knit, knit. Now this is the spot where we created that extra stitch on row number 7. I'm gonna purl, I'm gonna knit, purl, knit, purl, and we finish with a knit stitch. Perfect. I am going to remove that stitch marker as I need it in a different spot now. So I simply take the stitch off the loom, then take the stitch marker off, place the stitch back on the loom, and now I am going to count in my stitch pattern and see where I need this stitch marker to be located. So let me count. According to my pattern, I need to do a knit one, purl one, knit one, purl one, and then a knit one, and then I need to create my increase by doing a kf&b, which is basically purled into the front and back of the stitch. So I need my stitch marker right here at this peg. So I simply take the stitch off, place the stitch marker on the peg, put the stitch back on the peg, and I am ready to create row number 9. So take your working yarn to the front. Let's work the first 5 stitches. Knit 1. As I knit them, I am going to move them outwards. Knit 1, purl 1. Again, we're moving them outwards to create that empty space that we need. Knit, purl, moving the stitches outwards, and knit. And now we're at the spot where we need to create that extra stitch. So it says to purl through the front and back. That's what kf&b means. So purl the peg. Again, you're gonna purl it, but as you purl it, do not take the loop off the peg. Leave that loop on the peg. That new loop that you have made, place it on the empty peg next to it. You're simply going to E-wrap the peg in a counterclockwise direction. And make sure it doesn't pop off. Lift that bottom loop off. And you're ready to continue with your stitch pattern, which calls for a knit 1, purl 1, all the way to the end. And we finish in a knit 1. Row number 10. In this one, you are going to have 2 purl stitches together right at the center, which will be these 2 pegs right here where you increased. So let's get you to that point. So remember, you're knitting the stitches, knit the knit stitches, purling the purl stitches. We know that we finished that previous row on a knit stitch on the last peg, so we're gonna start on the knit stitch. So knit, purl, purl, knit. And this is the point where we have the 2 purl stitches together. So purl, purl, knit, the next one, purl, knit, purl, oops, and knit. That's row number 10. We are ready for row number 11. We're almost there, and then you will know how to do all the increases. For row number 11, we are going to do a make 1 through the front, which basically, just like we did before, it was make 1 through the back. That one meant it was a purl stitch. This one you're gonna be making a knit stitch between those 2 stitches right here that are the 2 purl stitches together. You'll need to create an empty peg right here at this point to create that knit stitch. So let's go ahead and do that. Remember, the easiest way for me, at least for me, to increase within the row is as I am knitting to move the stitches out. So that's the knit stitch. I move it out, purl stitch, move it out, knit, moving it out, purl, knit, purl. In here I did 1 purl. Remember, these were the 2 purls that were together. I need to create now the make 1 through the front, which basically we are going to create a knit stitch. To create that knit stitch, we are going to flip our loom over to find the ladder that runs from one stitch, from that stitch to this stitch. Once I have that stitch, I'm gonna pull on that ladder, I'm gonna rotate it, and I'm gonna put that loop on the peg. There we go. There. Now take the working yarn to the front of that peg, knit the stitch. That right there is a make 1 through the front, as called in this pattern. Next stitch is a purl stitch, and we have a knit and a purl. Oops. and we're ending on a knit stitch. Perfect. Great job. Row number 12 is simply to continue in your ribbing pattern. You finished with a knit 1, so start with a knit 1 because you're doing knit 1, purl 1 ribbing. You knit the knit stitches, purl the purl stitches. Oh, we're losing it, catch it. There we go. Putting it on. Knit, purl, purl, knit, purl, and the last stitch is a knit stitch. And right here, my friends, we have completed row number 12. You should have 13 stitches on your knitting loom right now. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. 13 stitches. You will continue to increase in this manner until your work measures about 7 inches from the cast on edge, from this edge right here. At the end of this, you should have 33 stitches on the knitting loom. So for example, you will repeat again from row 5 all the way to row 12. On row 5, you know that you have to go through the center stitch. So over here we have 13 stitches. So we need to go to the 7th stitch and remove this stitch marker and put it on the 7th stitch. 2, 4, 6, 7 right here. So that's where you increase. So let's take off that stitch marker for you. Perfect. And place it on the 7th stitch, which is the center stitch where you need to increase again as required in row number 5. And from there you will continue again increasing. I find it easy for me to keep the stitch marker with me and move it along. After row number 12, again find that center stitch and continue with the directions until you have 33 stitches on the knitting loom. We'll see you in part 2 of the video of creating the headband pattern. Thank you.